The night sky over Gangwon province burned orange and red. Farmers looked up from their fields. Children pointed at the streak of fire crossing the heavens. Old men whispered prayers. Something was falling from the stars. The object hit the mountains with a sound like thunder. The ground shook for 100 kilometers. Windows broke in nearby towns. Car alarms screamed into the night. When morning came, smoke still rose from the crash site, a black pillar reaching toward the clouds. Park Tae-ho was eating breakfast when his phone rang. He was a quiet man of 42 years, an aerospace engineer who had spent his life dreaming of space. He had designed satellite components and rocket engines. He had never imagined he would see something like this. "Get to the site immediately," his supervisor said. "This is not a meteor." Tae-ho drove for 6 hours through military checkpoints. Soldiers with serious faces waved him through when they saw his identification. The closer he got, the more vehicles he saw. Trucks, helicopters, and black cars filled the mountain roads. When he finally reached the crash site, he stopped breathing for a moment. The object was a ship. Not a plane, not a satellite. A ship from somewhere else. It stretched nearly 3 kilometers long, half buried in the mountainside. Its metal was dark gray, almost black, covered in symbols no human had ever seen. Fires still burned along its broken hull. Strange lights flickered behind cracked windows. Lieutenant Kim Yuna met him at the security perimeter. She was a young officer, maybe 30 years old, with sharp eyes and a calm voice. She carried a rifle but held it like she knew she might need something bigger. "Dr. Park," she said. "Welcome to the end of the world, as we know it. Is anyone alive inside?" Tae-ho asked. Yuna shook her head. "We found bodies. They are not human. They have been dead for a long time, maybe weeks. The ship was damaged before it entered our atmosphere. Something attacked it." Tae-ho felt cold despite the summer heat. Attacked by what? That is what we need to find out. They entered the ship together, wearing protective suits and carrying flashlights. The interior was dark and silent. The air smelled like burned metal and something else. Something organic and wrong. Their footsteps echoed in the vast corridors. The alien bodies lay where they had fallen. They were tall creatures, perhaps 2 meters, with pale blue skin and 4 arms. Their eyes were large and black, still open in death. They wore uniforms of some kind, torn and stained with dried blood that looked almost purple. "They were running," Yuna observed. "Look at how they fell. They were trying to escape something." Tae-ho knelt beside a control panel. The symbols meant nothing to him, but the design was clear. This was a bridge, a command center. He touched a button, carefully. The ship groaned. Lights flickered on, weak and red. A holographic display appeared in the air, showing images that made Tae-ho's heart stop. Stars, planets, fleets of ships engaged in battle. And then, a world burning. Cities turning to ash. Billions of creatures screaming as fire consumed them. "It's a record," Tae-ho whispered. "A history." Over the following weeks, more scientists arrived. Linguists worked day and night to understand the alien language. Engineers mapped the ship's systems. Soldiers stood guard at every entrance, their faces growing more worried each day. Baek Hana was the one who broke the language code. She was a small woman with messy hair and tired eyes, a linguist who had spent her career studying dead languages. Now, she studied a language from the stars. The ship belonged to something called the Velthari Empire, she told the assembled team. They ruled over 1,000 star systems. They were scientists, explorers, artists. They built great things. They ruled over the blues. Artists. What happened to them? Tae-ho asked. Hana's face grew dark. There is another group out there. The translation is difficult, but I believe they call themselves the Krenth Dominion. They are conquerors. They find other species, and they destroy them. Not enslave. Destroy. Completely. The room fell silent. The Velthari fought back, Hana continued. They fought for centuries. But they lost. This ship was one of the last to escape. The pilot recorded a final message before he died. She pressed a button. A hologram appeared, showing one of the tall blue aliens. He was wounded, bleeding from many cuts. His voice was weak, but clear. The translation appeared below. If you are seeing this, you have found our grave. We are sorry. We brought death to your world. The Krenth will detect our crash. They will come to investigate. They will find you. They will see your cities, your people, your potential, and they will destroy you, as they destroyed us. The alien coughed purple blood. We were proud. We thought we could defeat them. We were wrong. Perhaps you will be different. Perhaps you will find a way. Use our technology. Learn from our mistakes. Fight back. Or run. Hide. Do whatever you must to survive. The hologram flickered. They are coming. Maybe not tomorrow. Maybe not next year. But they are coming. Prepare yourselves. The image faded. The room remained silent for a long moment. Finally, Teho spoke. How long do we have? I don't know, Hana admitted. The ship's sensors detected something following it. Based on the speed, maybe 10 years. Maybe less. Lieutenant Yuna stepped forward. Her face was pale but determined. Then, we have work to do. Within a month, the world's governments formed a secret alliance. They called it the United Earth Reclamation Initiative. Their mission was simple, but impossible. They had to rebuild an alien starship that humanity could barely understand. They had to prepare for a war against an enemy that had destroyed civilizations older than human history. Park Tae-ho looked at the broken ship in the mountains and felt something strange growing in his chest. It was not fear. It was determination. Humanity had been given a warning and a gift. They would not waste either. The stars had sent them a weapon. Now they had to learn how to use it. 5 years passed like a fever dream. The world changed in ways that most people never saw. On the surface, life continued as normal. People went to work, raised children, watched television. They did not know that beneath the mountains of Korea, humanity was fighting for its survival. Director Yoon Sok stood at the center of it all. He was a large man with gray hair and hands that had once built ships in the dockyards of Busan. Now he built something far greater. Project Taeguk, they called it. The hope of all mankind. The underground facility stretched for kilometers in every direction. 50,000 workers lived and worked beneath the earth. Engineers from every nation. Scientists who had left their families behind. Soldiers who guarded secrets they could never share. All of them united by a single purpose. Rebuild the alien ship. Make it fly. Make it fight. The work was harder than anyone had imagined. The Velthari technology operated on principles that human science could not explain. Their engines bent space itself. Their weapons drew power from the fabric of reality. Their computers thought in ways that drove human programmers mad. We lost another team today, Yoon Sok reported at the weekly meeting. His voice was tired. Reactor test in Section 7. The containment field collapsed. 12 dead. The room was quiet. This was not the first time. It would not be the last. We cannot stop, said Park Tae-ho. He had aged 10 years in the last 5. His hair was white now. His eyes were sunken, but his voice remained strong. Every death brings us closer to understanding. Every failure teaches us something new. Shin Mi-ran disagreed. We are approaching this wrong, she said. The quantum physicist was young, barely 30, but she had become one of the project's most important minds. We keep trying to understand their technology. We should be trying to improve it. 1. Improve it? Yoon Sok laughed bitterly. We cannot even turn it on without killing people, because we are using their systems, Miran explained. Their brains worked differently than ours. Their neural patterns were slow, methodical, precise. But human brains are different. We are faster, more creative, more adaptable. She showed them her research. For months, she had studied the alien pilot interfaces. The Velthari had controlled their ships through direct neural connection. Their technology responded to thought. But the connection had to match perfectly, or the system would reject the user. Human brains do not match, Miran continued. So, the system fights us. But what if we change the interface? What if we made it adapt to us, instead of forcing us to adapt to it? The idea was crazy. It was brilliant. It was their only hope. For the next year, Miran led a team of doctors, engineers, and volunteers. They built a new interface, one that could read human thoughts and translate them for the alien systems. The work was dangerous. Many volunteers suffered brain damage. Some died. But slowly, painfully, they made progress. No Jay was the first successful pilot. He was a former fighter pilot, 40 years old, with nerves of steel and a mind like lightning. When he sat in the modified control chair and connected to the ship's systems, something amazing happened. The ship woke up, not just the small sections they had managed to power. Everything. Lights blazed throughout the entire vessel. Engines hummed with power. Weapon systems came online for the first time in years. "It's beautiful," Jay whispered. His eyes were closed, but he was seeing everything. The ship had become an extension of his body. He could feel the reactor beating like a heart. He could sense the hull like skin. I can feel it thinking. It's confused. It doesn't recognize me, but it's accepting me anyway. The first test flight happened at night. They had moved the ship to a hidden location in the desert, far from any population centers. Millions of tons of alien metal rose slowly into the sky, held aloft by gravity fields that turned physics into a suggestion. Jay pushed the ship harder. Faster. He tried maneuvers that the Velthari had never attempted. The ship responded instantly, faster than any human vehicle had ever moved. The original specs said maximum speed was 0.7 light, reported the monitoring team. He's pushing 0.9. The human modifications are actually improving performance. Park Tae-ho watched from the ground, tears streaming down his face. The Velthari built this ship to run away, he said. They designed it to survive, but we are rebuilding it to fight. Quote, more pilots were trained. More systems were modified. Human creativity found solutions that the Velthari had never considered. They combined alien energy weapons with human nuclear technology, creating hybrid systems of terrifying power. They redesigned the hull with adaptive materials that could heal damage in battle. They improved the engines until the ship could move in ways that should have been impossible. The aliens had built a refugee vessel. Humans were transforming it into a weapon of war. Kim Yuna, now a commander, trained the combat teams. Hundreds of soldiers learned to fight in zero gravity, to breach enemy ships, to kill enemies they had never seen. She pushed them harder than any commander before. The Krenth have conquered 1,000 worlds, she told her troops. They have never lost. They have never faced a species that refused to die. We will be the first. We will be the last thing they ever see. The ship received a new name. They called it the Hwarang, after the ancient warriors of Korea. A name that meant both beauty and death. A name that promised vengeance for 100 murdered civilizations. In the 6th year, the long-range sensors detected something entering the solar system. Small ships, moving fast, heading toward Earth. The Krenth had arrived early. Director Yoon Sok called an emergency meeting. Is the ship ready? He asked. No Jay stood up. His face was calm. We are ready. Then launch. The Hwarang rose from its hidden base and climbed toward the stars. Inside, 500 humans prepared for the fight of their lives. They were farmers' children, factory workers' daughters, students who had been studying for exams when the alien ship fell from the sky. Now they were warriors. Now they were humanity's only hope. The stars were waiting. The enemy was coming. And for the first time in history, Earth had something to fight back with. The Krenth ships moved through the darkness between worlds like sharks swimming through black water. There were 5 of them, each one bristling with weapons, each one carrying soldiers bred for murder. They had done this 1,000 times before. Find a new species. Study them. Destroy them. Admiral Cho Sung watched them on the main display of the Hwarang. He was an old man, 70 years past, with a face like carved stone and eyes that had seen too much war. He had fought in conflicts on Earth that now seemed like children's games. This was different. This was everything. Scout ships, reported the tactical officer. Standard Krenth formation. They are scanning the system. Have they detected us? Cho Sung asked. Not yet, sir. We are hiding behind the moon. The admiral nodded. The Hwarang was running silent, its systems powered down to minimum levels. They had been waiting for 3 days, watching the enemy approach. Now, the time for watching was over. Contact Earth Command, he ordered. Tell them the guests have arrived. On Earth, the message spread through secret channels. Leaders gathered in hidden bunkers. Military forces moved to alert status without public announcement. The world held its breath and did not know why. The Krenth commander was called Overlord Vrex. He was a massive creature, 3 meters tall, covered in thick gray scales. His eyes were yellow and cold, the eyes of a predator that had never known fear. He sat on his command throne and watched the blue planet growing larger on his screens. Primitive, he growled. Radio signals. Chemical. Rockets. They have not even left their own system. The crashed vessel, Overlord, said his adjutant. Our scans confirm it was Velthari. The signature came from this world. Quote, Vrex showed his teeth, rows of sharp black points. So the insects found a toy. It does not matter. They cannot understand Velthari technology. No primitive species ever has. He opened a communication channel to the planet below. His voice boomed across every frequency that humanity could receive. Creatures of this world. I am Overlord Vrex, of the Krenth Dominion. You possess technology that does not belong to you. You will surrender it immediately. You will submit to processing. Resistance will result in extinction. You have 1 rotation of your planet to comply. The message ended. On Earth, billions of people heard those words. Fear spread like fire. Panic filled the streets. For the first time, humanity knew they were not alone in the universe, and they knew that what had found them wanted them dead. But the leaders who had spent 6 years preparing did not panic. They sent their reply through the same channels. This is Earth. We decline your offer. Vrex laughed when he heard the response. Insects, he said again. Brave insects, but insects still. Destroy their satellites, burn their cities, show them the cost of defiance. The Krenth ships moved toward Earth. Their weapons began to charge. In a few minutes, they would be in range. In a few hours, human civilization would be ash. Then the Hwarang appeared. It came around the edge of the moon like a dark angel, its engines blazing with blue fire. On the Krenth sensors, it looked like a ghost. The signature was Velthari, but different. Changed. Wrong. Overlord, the adjutant screamed. Contact! 1 vessel. It's impossible. Vrex leaned forward. His yellow eyes narrowed. That ship was destroyed. We saw the damage ourselves. It has been repaired, Overlord, and modified. The power readings are off our scales. No J, now Admiral of the Hwarang, opened a channel. His voice was calm, almost pleasant. Overlord Vrex, I am Admiral No J. of the United Earth Defense Fleet. You have entered our space without permission. You have threatened our people. You have exactly 30 seconds to turn around and leave." Vrex roared with laughter. "One ship? You challenge 5 Krenth warships with one vessel. Your courage is amusing, insect. But courage does not win wars. Power wins wars. And you have none." 20 seconds, Jay replied. "Kill them," Vrex commanded. The Krenth ships opened fire. Energy beams and missiles streaked across space toward the Hwarang. It was enough firepower to crack a moon. Enough destruction to end any battle before it began. The Hwarang moved. Not flew. Moved. One moment it was there. The next it was somewhere else. The Krenth weapons hit nothing but empty space. The alien sensors could not track the human ship. It was too fast. Too unpredictable. "What is happening?" Vrex demanded. "On the Hwarang's bridge," Jay smiled. "Blink drive," he said. "A human invention. Short-range teleportation. The Velthari never figured it out. We did." The Hwarang reappeared behind the Krenth formation and opened fire. Human-modified weapons blazed with terrible light. The first Krenth ship exploded in a ball of fire. Then the second. Then the third. Vrex watched his fleet die in seconds. His scales went pale. His hands gripped his throne until the metal bent. "Impossible," he whispered. They were just primitives. The Hwarang came for his flagship next. It appeared directly above them, so close that Vrex could see its hull through his windows. He saw human symbols painted on the metal. He saw weapon ports opening, charging with deadly light. "You should have listened," Jay's voice said through the speakers. "You should have turned around." The Krenth command ship was tougher than the scouts. It survived the first volley. Vrex screamed orders to his crew. Desperate maneuvers. Returning fire with everything they had. But the Hwarang was everywhere and nowhere, blinking in and out of existence, striking from impossible angles. Commander Kim Yuna led a boarding team through a hull breach. 50 human soldiers in powered armor cut through Krenth defenders like knives through paper. They had trained for years for this moment. They were ready. Yuna found Vrex on his bridge, surrounded by dead guards. The Overlord was wounded, bleeding yellow blood from a dozen cuts. But he was still dangerous. He lunged at her with claws that could cut steel. She shot him 3 times in the chest. He fell. "You don't understand," Vrex gasped as he died. "The Dominion has millions of ships, billions of soldiers. Killing me means nothing." Yuna looked down at him without pity. "It means something to us," she said. "It means we can win." The battle ended in minutes. 4 Krenth ships destroyed. 1 captured. 0 human losses. The message went out across the galaxy through captured Krenth communications. The Dominion heard it. 1,000 conquered species heard it. The words were simple, but they changed everything. "Earth has drawn first blood. Send more." In his palace on the Dominion homeworld, the Supreme Warlord Keth received the report. He was ancient, older than human civilization, a monster who had personally ordered the extinction of 200 species. He watched the footage of the battle. He saw his ships die. He saw the Hwarang move in ways that defied everything he knew. "Interesting," he said softly. "Very interesting." The real war was about to begin. 3 years of blood and fire. 3 years of battles that shook the solar system. 3 years of humanity proving that they were not insects to be crushed. The Krenth came in waves. First dozens of ships, then hundreds. They expected the victory to be easy. They expected the primitives to break and beg for mercy. Instead, they found a species that had learned the art of war over thousands of years of killing each other. Admiral No J became a legend. His name spread through the galaxy on captured enemy communications. The Krenth called him the Ghost, because he appeared without warning and left only death behind. He fought 17 major battles and won them all. Earth changed. The secret of the alien ship became public knowledge after the first invasion attempt. There was panic at first, riots, and chaos. But humans adapted. They always did. Fear turned to anger. Anger turned to determination. Factories that once made cars now made warships. Universities that once taught philosophy now taught weapons design. Shin Mi-Ran led the development of new technologies. The blink drive was only the beginning. Her team created shields that could absorb Krenth weapons. They designed missiles that could chase enemy ships across light years. They built power cores that made the Velthari engines look like children's toys. The Velthari were brilliant, she told her researchers, but they thought in straight lines. Humans think in circles, in spirals, in chaos. That is our advantage. Commander Bakhana fought a different kind of war. She had studied the Krenth language, their culture, their history. She knew what made them strong. She also knew what made them weak. The Dominion is not unified, she reported to Earth Command. They rule through fear. Every conquered species serves them because they have no choice. But fear is fragile. Hope is stronger. She began a propaganda campaign across the galaxy. Using captured communications, she broadcast messages to every enslaved world. She showed them footage of Krenth ships burning. She showed them humans standing victorious over fallen enemy soldiers. She showed them something they had never seen before. Defeat for their masters. You are not alone, her messages said. Resistance is possible. Rise up. The effect was slow at first. A few scattered rebellions, quickly crushed. But each rebellion weakened the Dominion slightly. Each world that resisted was another world that could not send ships against Earth. The enemy was not fighting one war anymore. They were fighting 1,000. Mars became a fortress. Human colonists had established small bases there before the war. Now millions lived in underground cities, surrounded by defense platforms and weapon satellites. The Red Planet became Earth's shield, the first line of defense against any invasion. The Battle of Titan changed everything. The Krenth sent 200 warships to destroy human fuel production on Saturn's moon. Admiral J met them with 50 vessels. The Krenth commander was confident, 4-to-1 odds. Easy victory. He ordered his fleet to attack in standard formation, just as they had attacked 1,000 other worlds. J let them come. He waited until they were deep in Saturn's gravity well, committed to their attack pattern. Then, he sprang the trap. All ships, he commanded, execute Hammer Protocol. 50 human ships blinked in perfect unison, reappearing in a sphere around the enemy fleet. Before the Krenth could react, they opened fire from every direction. Missiles that had been hidden in the rings of Saturn activated and joined the assault. Mines that had been placed months earlier exploded among the enemy ranks. The battle lasted 40 minutes. When it ended, 180 Krenth ships were destroyed. 20 retreated in panic. Human losses, 6 vessels, 214 lives. The footage spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Enslaved species watched in disbelief as the mighty Krenth fled from primitive creatures they had dismissed as insects. On 100 worlds, resistance movements doubled in size overnight. But the Dominion was vast, and their resources seemed endless. For every fleet that Earth destroyed, 2 more appeared. Human ships were better, human tactics were smarter, but humans were outnumbered 10,000 to 1. Director Yoon Suk gathered his top commanders and scientists. His face was grim. We are winning the battles, he said. But we are losing the war. Our shipyards cannot keep pace. Our people are exhausted. We need something more. Park Tae-ho, now 80 years old and still fighting, spoke up. There may be a way. We have been studying the Velthari records for years. They had a weapon. Something they were building when the Dominion found them. They called it the Star's Heart. They never finished it. What was it? Jay asked. a device that could focus solar energy into a beam. Not just light. Everything. Radiation, plasma, raw nuclear fire. According to their calculations, a single shot could destroy an entire fleet, or a planet. The room fell silent. Such a weapon was beyond anything humanity had imagined. It was the power of gods. Can we build it? Yunsok asked. Taeho nodded slowly. The Velthari failed because they ran out of time, but they left complete designs. With our modifications, with human creativity. Yes, I believe we can. The project began in secret, deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. Thousands of workers built something that should not have been possible. They worked in shifts around the clock, racing against an enemy that was gathering its full strength, because word came from Hana's intelligence network. Supreme Warlord Keth had finally taken notice. He was assembling the largest fleet in Dominion history. 5,000 warships, soldiers from 100 conquered species, weapons designed to crack planets like eggs. They called it the Extinction Armada. Its mission was simple: erase humanity from existence, leave no survivors, make an example that the galaxy would never forget. Keth sent a message to Earth before his fleet departed. "You have fought well, for insects," he said. "But your fight is over. I am coming. And when I arrive, your world will burn, until nothing remains but ash. This, I promise you." Admiral J watched the message with his officers. His face showed nothing. When it ended, he spoke. "He promises us death. Let us promise him something worse." The final battle was coming, and humanity had one last surprise in store. The Extinction Armada arrived at the edge of the solar system like a plague of metal locusts. 5,000 warships blotted out the stars. Supreme Warlord Keth stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, and watched his fleet stretch across the void. "Report," he commanded. "The humans have gathered their defense fleet near the third planet, Supreme One. Approximately 300 vessels." Keth laughed. It was a cold sound, like bones breaking. 300 against 5,000. They are brave, I will give them that. But bravery is not enough. Admiral No J stood on the bridge of the Hwarang and looked at the enemy fleet on his screens. 300 ships. Every vessel humanity had built, every pilot, every soldier, every weapon they could gather. It was everything they had. It was not enough. "Admiral," his tactical officer said quietly, "the odds are impossible. I know. What do we do?" Jay turned to face his crew. They were young, most of them. Children of a world that had spent a decade preparing for this moment. They looked at him, with fear in their eyes, but also with trust. "We do what humans have always done," he said. "We fight. We hold. We buy time." The two fleets closed on each other. The Krenth came in standard formation, confident in their overwhelming numbers. The humans spread thin, trying to cover every approach to Earth. The battle began with fire and death. Krenth weapons tore through human shields. Ships exploded in silent flowers of flame. The Hwarang danced through the chaos, its blink drive keeping it ahead of enemy fire. But even the legendary vessel could not be everywhere at once. "We've lost the Indomitable," someone shouted. "The victory is gone. They're breaking through our left flank." Jay watched his fleet die around him. Each ship that fell was 100 lives. Friends, comrades, family. He felt each loss like a wound in his own flesh. But they were buying time. That was all that mattered. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, Dr. Park Taeho watched the final calibrations complete. The weapon was called the Hammer of Soul. It was beautiful and terrible, a machine that could reach out and touch the sun, draw its fire, and send it screaming across space. "How long?" Director Yoon Sok demanded. His face was pale. On the screens around them, they could see the battle. They could see their people dying. 20 minutes, Taeho replied. The capacitors need 20 minutes to reach full charge. We don't have 20 minutes. Taeho looked at the old director. Both men had spent a decade working toward this moment. Both had sacrificed everything. Then, our fleet needs to hold for 20 minutes. In space, Commander Kim Yuna led the Hwarang's ground forces in desperate action. Enemy boarding parties had breached the hull. Krenth soldiers poured through the gaps, their weapons blazing. Yuna fought like a demon, her rifle cutting down one alien after another. "Hold them back," she screamed. "Don't let them reach the bridge." The ship shook as another missile struck the hull. Fires burned in the corridors. Bodies lay everywhere, human and Krenth alike. But still they fought. Still they held. Supreme Warlord Keth watched the battle with growing confusion. The humans should have broken by now. Every other species had. When they saw defeat was certain, they begged for mercy. They surrendered. They gave up. These creatures did not give up. They fought harder as they died. They threw themselves against impossible odds, with smiles on their faces. "What are they doing?" he muttered. "Why do they keep fighting?" His adjutant had no answer. "Supreme One," a sensor officer reported. "We are detecting an energy buildup on the planet's surface. Massive power signature. We have never seen anything like it." Keth leaned forward. "Show me." The screen displayed Earth. In the Pacific Ocean, something was glowing, growing brighter every second. The power readings climbed higher and higher, beyond anything Krenth science could explain. "What is that?" Keth whispered. On the Hwarang, Admiral J received a message from Earth Command. He read it and closed his eyes. His ship was dying around him. 2/3 of his crew were dead. The engines were failing. Weapons were almost depleted, but they had held for 19 minutes. "All ships," he broadcast. "Clear the firing lane." Repeat. "Clear the firing lane." The human fleet scattered, what remained of it. 60 ships out of 300. All of them damaged. All of them burning. They fled in every direction, leaving a clear path between Earth and the Krenth Armada. Keth saw the opening and laughed. "They run. Finally. They break. All ships. Advance. Let us finish this." The Extinction Armada surged forward. 5,000 ships hungry for the kill. They poured through the gap the humans had left, racing toward the blue planet. They did not understand what they were racing toward. Commander Yuna stood on the Hwarang's bridge. Jay was wounded, unconscious. Half the controls were destroyed. The ship was drifting, powerless, directly in the path of the enemy fleet. "Ma'am," her officer said, "we can't move. We're going to be overrun." Yuna looked at the enemy ships approaching. She looked at Earth below, the world she had sworn to protect. She thought of everyone she had lost, everyone who had died to give them this chance. "Ram them," she said. "Ma'am?" "Full emergency power to the engines. Point us at the flagship. Ram them." The officer stared at her for a moment. Then he nodded. "Yes, ma'am." The Hwarang came to life one last time. Its broken engines fired with desperate power. The ship lurched forward, accelerating toward the Eternal Dominion. Keth saw it coming and screamed orders, but it was too late. The Hwarang struck the Krenth flagship like a spear. Both ships crumpled on impact. The collision tore through decks and bulkheads, killing thousands instantly. It bought 10 more seconds, 10 seconds Earth desperately needed. Park Taeho pressed the final button. The hammer of Sol fired. A beam of pure solar energy crossed the distance from Earth to the Extinction Armada in heartbeats. It was not light. It was the concentrated fury of a star. Billions of degrees of nuclear fire compressed into a lance of absolute destruction. The beam struck the Krenth fleet, dead center. Ships vaporized instantly, turning to plasma in milliseconds. The energy spread outward, consuming everything it touched. Explosions cascaded through the armada as ships collided, as fuel ignited, as weapons cooked off. 5,000 warships became dust in seconds. Supreme Warlord Keth had one moment to understand what was happening. He saw the light approaching. He saw his fleet dying around him. He opened his mouth to scream. Then the fire took him. On Earth, people looked up at the sky and saw a second sun burning where the enemy had been. They did not understand what they were seeing. They only knew that they were still alive. The message went out across the galaxy, broadcast on every frequency. The Extinction Armada is destroyed. The Dominion has fallen. Humanity stands. In the wreckage of the Hwarang, rescue teams found Commander Yuna still alive. She was buried under debris, broken and bleeding, but alive. They pulled her free and carried her home. Admiral J survived as well, recovered from the ruins of the bridge. When he woke in the hospital, his first words were, "Did we win?" We line. We lining." "Yes," they told him. "We won. The war was over." But the galaxy had changed forever. Within months, the Krenth Dominion collapsed. Without Keth, without their fleet, they had nothing to hold their empire together. Enslaved species rose up everywhere. 1,000 worlds declared independence. 1,000 chains were broken. Earth sent ships to help them, not as conquerors, not as rulers, as friends. The species that had been abandoned by the stars became the beacon of hope for everyone who had suffered under tyranny. A memorial was built in the mountains of Korea, where the Velthari ship had first crashed. Names were carved in stone. Park Tae-ho, Yoon Sok, Shin Mi-ran, Cho Sung, No Jae, Kim Yuna, and thousands of others. All the people who had given their lives for a world that had not known it was in danger. Baek Hana wrote the inscription herself. It read, "They left us broken technology and a warning. They thought we would cower. They did not understand. Humanity does not break. Humanity builds." Commander Yuna visited the memorial often. After she recovered, she would stand before the stones and remember the friends she had lost, the battles she had fought, the moments of terror and triumph. One day, a reporter asked her what she felt when she looked at the monument. She thought for a long moment before answering. "Pride," she said finally, "and sadness, and hope." Hope for what? Yuna looked up at the stars. The same stars that had once sent them a warning. The same stars that now looked to Earth for guidance. "Hope that we never have to use that weapon again," she said. "Hope that we can be better than the ones who came before. Hope that the galaxy remembers what we learned here." And what did we learn? Yuna smiled. It was the smile of a soldier who had seen too much death, but who still believed in something. That the smallest species can defeat the greatest evil. That courage matters more than numbers. That hope is stronger than fear. She paused. And that humanity, when pushed to the edge of extinction, will push back harder than anyone ever imagined. The stars shone above her, filled with new possibilities. The war was over. The future was just beginning. And humanity would be ready for whatever came next.